To fantasy victory now, another week of football in the books, and maybe a bit of a surprise, San Diego going nuts on the Seattle defense. So, Paul, is the Seahawks defense in trouble?
Well, you know, the Seahawks defense has been a unit that you always had to be really, really cautious about starting opponents against. But maybe that's starting to change here. Still, this is a really, really good defense, and one that I think you have to be especially careful about, especially at home. Brace yourself for some sobering home stats here for Seattle's defense. Going back to 2012, spanning 19 home games, the average passing yards against them, 189. That is it. 2 of the 19 quarterbacks they faced in that span have topped 300 yards. And by the way, neither of them won the game. The average touchdowns thrown against Seattle in those home games, going back again through 2012, 0.73. 2 of 19 quarterbacks have managed to throw more than 1 touchdown pass against Seattle over that stretch. So this remains, I believe, still a dominant defense, especially at home.
Now, some medical experts put RG3's injury timetable of 8 to 12 weeks with that dislocation. Kirk Cousins, a guy that if you drafted RG3 going back to last year, you probably should have handcuffed him if you're
as much as you ever handcuff a quarterback.
As much as you ever handcuff a quarterback. Yeah. So a lot of people want to know, he's still widely available in a lot of leagues. Where does Kirk Cousins fit in to that whole quarterback sphere of the NFL?
He looks like a better fit right now in this new Jay Gruden offense than RG3 does. And I think he is somebody that you target. You can get more information on how much to bid for Kirk Cousins and whether or not you should target him if you go to fantasyvictory.com. You know, the range of estimates we've seen on this dislocated foot very greatly. We've seen as short as 4 weeks, as long as 12 weeks. So who knows? This thing could really have a lot of flux to it on when RG3 could come back. My biggest worry about Cousins, really, is just Washington's schedule over the next month. Cousins has an easy matchup this week with Philadelphia, but after that, he gets 4 very difficult secondaries in a row. The Giants, the Seahawks, the Cardinals, and the Titans. Now, if Cousins can survive that run and look good and remain the starter after Griffin is healthy, then I think we're talking about a guy that you can really bank on. But those 4 opponents might be so tough that Kirk Cousins doesn't look good, and now you're back to a quarterback quandary.
All right, count me among Montee Ball owners that are a little worried after 2 weeks. He's in that pass-first offense, and if he didn't find the end zone in week 1, he might really be in trouble. So what about Montee Ball the rest of the year?
You know, Montee Ball, if you just look at the box scores, doesn't look like he's getting a lot of love, but I think he's actually okay. You know, he's a guy who's broken a lot of tackles running behind a bad offensive line, and at least bad from a run blocking standpoint. So I'm not as worried about Montee Ball. I think he's run very hard. He's going to get his opportunities near the stripe, without a doubt. So the catch here on Montee Ball, though, schedule gets very tough. So, you know, this week we've got a tough matchup with Seattle. After that, they've got a bye, so you can't start him then. Then they get Arizona. That's a good defense. The Jets are a good run defense. And then San Francisco, a good run defense. So, you know, from that standpoint, Montee Ball's got his work cut out for him, but I still think he's run really hard, and I still think this is such a good offense. He'll get his opportunities, and I'm not panicking on Montee Ball.
Another preseason top 10 that's off to a little bit of a rough start, maybe. Eddie Lacy in Green Bay. 77 yards only in 2 games, and going into last week against the Jets, said he was even thinking of changing his rushing style to avoid concussions.
Don't do it, Eddie. Yeah, you know, we want you to run like you always run. And, you know, the thing about Eddie Lacy is going to continue to be, Mike, well, let's start here. Which running backs are looking good that you took in the first couple of rounds? You know, almost none of them. Eddie Lacy's thinking about changing his running style. I'm not buying that. I think so far the schedule has been the biggest issue. He's had Seattle and the Jets. Those are 2 really good run defenses. And looking ahead at the schedule for Eddie Lacy, there's only 1 stopper left on the schedule. That's Week 7 against Carolina. The rest of the way, it's all good for Lacy. Do not give up on him.
So Eddie Lacy may be a guy to buy low on and get at the bargain basement price.
Absolutely.
Antonio Gates and Phillip Rivers look like the Antonio Gates and Phillip Rivers of 5 years ago now. 3 touchdowns against that Seahawks defense. So Ladarius Green looks like he's going to be riding the pine another year.
Ladarius Green's a guy you can bench. You can see him and 4 others that I recommend that you drop from your roster at fantasyvictory.com. Gates has received twice as many plays as Ladarius Green, 94 to Green's 50 through 2 games, and more importantly, all the key targets and the throws are going to Gates. Look, it's just a matter of time before Gates does what he does every year, which is break down and slow down as the season gets deeper in. But for the time being, this is all about Antonio Gates right now. And while he's healthy, he's an elite tight end, and you start him every week, and we'll deal with picking Ladarius Green back up later in the season once Antonio Gates gets hurt.
There you go. You're in good hands with Paul Charch, and make sure to get to fantasyvictory.com for complete analysis every day, every week.